Hello everybody, and welcome to a full reading of all the books in the Arceuus Library, at least all the ones that I have access to, as I can only access 15 of the 16 books that are technically at some point available in the Arceuus Library, with the 16th book being Valuable Envoy, that's only accessible for the first time during the Depths of Despair quest, after which it would then be available in the library. But the Depths of Despair quest requires NPC interaction, so I'll never be able to access the Valuable Envoy book. So unfortunately, I will have to skip that one. I've done a book reading before of all the books in the Farming Guild, and this time I want to do it again, but with the books from the Arceuus Library. Unlike the books in the Farming Guild, the books in the Arceuus Library don't have a specific numbered order, so I'm just going to read them in alphabetical order. And, same as last time, I will both read the books themselves and add my own commentary on top of it, based on my non-PC's accounts. And I think it'll be pretty interesting, so settle back, relax, and it's time to read all the books in the Arceuus Library, the 15 I have access to. Burn's coronation speech. Coronation speech of King Burn I. Now we can talk with our own voices. Together we bring liberation, freedom, and a future. Gone is the tyrant. We threw him down. Our freedom is not without cost. Many died, and much has been destroyed. Yet more needs to be destroyed before we can heal the wounds of this past century. What do you mean more needs to be destroyed? All icons and imagery that betray our freedom must be cast down. Not only cast down, but resurrected also. Resurrected as symbols of freedom, hope, and warning. My friends, my people, we start a journey today. A most difficult journey. We must rebuild much of what has been destroyed. Our homes, our farms, and our temples. We must rebuild more than just buildings. We must rebuild our friendships, our memories, and our understanding of freedom. We must remember what hope is, what hope means, and dare to imagine what hope can bring. We have the chance to create a great future. Make Kourend great once more. I feel like that's not gonna last, because clearly it was great before, and then it got lost, so together we can achieve anything, and we must be together to progress. Forget your rivalries, forget past grievances, and forget them you must. Only with a clear mind and unified approach can we achieve our deserved future. For it is won! Speech of King Burn I on the occasion of his coronation. Ethram and Rada extract. The world didst pass from Horatio to Ethram. Okay, surely that didst is supposed to be didn't. I'm gonna read it as though it says didn't. The world didn't pass from Horatio to Ethram, yet still did wisdom not prevail. Through oppression, Ethram stood up and, armed in naught but leather and steel, did he steal back people. That sounds mildly suspicious. He doth cried, not full of mourning, but with passion. Unto him was said, You are a man of hope, a man of truth and innocence, and he was emboldened in his mission beforest. Whither now thee go, my lord? Was he asked, to which he replied, My future is ordained, and my path has been shown unto me. This is a lot of red text, you know. And armed with leather and steel did he leave, and so his path led him, and other men, to the place whence they would make a history. A history? What do you mean by a history? I guess maybe they're talking about, how when someone is writing a history book, they're only writing, the victor's point of view, or one perspective, usually both. So maybe in that sense, it's multiple versions of history? Multiple sides of history. Yeah, where they would make one side of history. But once again, it sounds really suspicious. First was Lord Picule, then Ethram, then the elders. Draben and Feral and young Svelgen. Well, that does sound drab indeed. And feral. "Welcome," said Ephraim to all, and gave thanks for their presence and health unto this time. And so in such a place was the decision made. It was just a decision, as they agreed, and one which would combat the evil they faced. Ahead of 4 phalanx of spears and 100 knights did Ephraim enter Korend unopposed. The hope for his people and the fear for his enemies carried before him. Such force showed his might, so much so that the king could do naught but turn his sword upon himself. Well, that's tragic, isn't it? No. I should be fully impartial. This is the affair of NPCs. They don't matter to me. Hesidius letter. Letter of Lord Hesidius. To the most venerable chamber of the Council of Elders, i.e. to the people, or whatever you are, with the most literally drab names in existence. Drabbin, that's the joke. Anyway, I hope that this time finds you well, and that your times are bountiful. Sadly, I cannot say that the same is true for everyone in this great kingdom of ours. This morning, I passed children starving in the streets, unable to walk, or already dead in the gutter. Oh, that's morbid. Yikes. And although I have the ability to help them, I am forbidden to do so. Well, that sucks, doesn't it? My most venerable council, I beseech you to grant my request as mentioned in previous meetings at your chamber. We can grow enough food to extricate us from the famine we have experienced these last 5 years. That is a very long time. Like, why wasn't Lord Hesidius trying to petition earlier? I mean, maybe he was, but I can't see any evidence of it right now, so. However, I cannot do so without the appropriate amount of land. Only yesterday did I meet with the lords of the other houses, and we agreed in principle that all houses would offer half of their land, so we may farm more. Okay, so this is probably why Hesidius, out of the 5 kingdoms, has the largest land mass, and why Tai Farm used to be so massive. It's not massive anymore, but, you know, it used to be, so that counts, I guess. And within 6 months, we can have enough food to halt this famine. I understand the most venerable council's concern of the political implications of such a move. However, the political security of this great kingdom will not matter if it is unable to feed itself. It is a solid point. Anarchy is only months away, and as such, any delay in this decision, because I only reach out to you, 5 years in and not just immediately, can have catastrophic results. Well, they weren't catastrophic already. I know the council is wise, not with names like Drabbin, and I am sure you will see the decision you must make is to grant this request. I think there is missing a that in this sentence, so it should probably read, well, you will see that the decision you must make is to grant this request. Anyway. Yours most respectfully, Lord Hesidius. Ideology of Darkness. It was upon a summer's day, when seated in the garden, did one of my pupils approach me. Okay, so this is from, a teacher's point of view, I'm guessing? Master, he inquired, of the altar yonder, I hear some say it is a power of light, and yet some say it is a power of darkness. Can these not both be true? Okay, well, I'm assuming that when they're talking about an altar, they're talking about the dark altar, because that's come on, it's the most obvious altar that's not a prayer altar where you recharge your prayer points. Although, it could be a runecrafting altar, like the blood runecrafting altar or the soul altar, which I guess are not inherently dark, either of those. It was not without confidence that I had spent much of the previous day pondering this very same conundrum as the subject had arisen in lectures, and so I had expected this question in the forthcoming days. I replied, to answer that question, you must first decide what is light and what is darkness. I see, master, said my student. I interrupted quickly as I expected this response. Do you really see? With light you can see, but with darkness you cannot see. How can you answer the question when half of it remains hidden? My student looked puzzled. Master, if half of it remains hidden, I must look harder to see if I can find the other half. That is correct. And how will you look for what is hidden? I must search harder for what I seek, master, and continue until I find it. But, I replied, if the darkness is too great, you will be searching as a blind man without a stick. That will ultimately lead you to failure. Then I must find a stick, master. Is he going to find a sturdy stick or a non-sturdy stick? Because, to me, sticks can range from anything from bronze spears, which are required for making scarecrows, which I made on my main loner, all the way down to teasing sticks, which I also got on my main loner, as an item spawn in Cramja, which I could only get to with a minigame teleport, by the way. What would be better than finding a stick? I prompted. To not be blind, master. I felt that we were nearing the end of our conversation, stood and walked towards a grove of trees. That's not correct grammar. I feel like there should be a so I after the comma there. That would make more sense. My student followed. And how would you not be blind in the darkness? I asked. I would bring a light, my master. Are we talking a candle, a torch, a frickin' bullseye lantern, a oil lantern, an oil lantern, excuse my grammar, a candle lantern? Because, like, depending on the source of darkness, it could be snuffed out really easily, like if it's the giant mole layer, like on my main loner, like the gas bubbles, also on my main loner, I nearly died on that one as well. Like, it's a bit vague as to what kind of light we're talking about here. Are we talking about, like, an Avengers type beam that goes up into the sky, which I know about, even though I still haven't watched, like, the majority of the Avengers movies? And how would you find a light? Master, I would search for the light. Still no idea what kind of light, but okay. And when I found the light, I would be able to search for what is hidden in the darkness. For many students I have seen, they would have finished at this point, realizing the revelation they had reached. Well, I don't know what revelation they would have reached. However, this student was very thoughtful. Don't know about that one, champ. And his next question continued the conversation. But master, if I have a light and find what is hidden in the darkness, it is no longer hidden or in darkness. That is correct, I confirmed. So how does that relate to your original question of whether Altar Yonder is of light or darkness? Is this one of those cases where it's like, well, if I figure out what this altar is for, it's no longer mysterious and therefore it is quote-unquote in the light? Maybe? Master, I believe I understand now. He left the garden. What garden was it? When was a garden mentioned? Also, this is clearly in Arceuus, the place of magic, right? So, I mean, technically there is a garden, the little fenced off section with the, like, 2 magic trees and a few roses, but there was no mention of a garden at the start of this book, or at least I don't think so, so, a bit odd. He left the garden with his lesson learnt, and the darkness in his mind now light. Okay, that's confusing. Killing of a king. The hope he had upon his shoulders of all that's bad with his soldiers. It was a fool's errand, we say, to end the rules and make him pay. But yet he charged with his fighters, so they barged, not leave survivors. I feel like that's at least a bit of incorrect grammar, but the odd lines rhyme with themselves and even lines rhyme with themselves, so I'll forgive it. They made a roar and plunged the knife in all man's hope to end his life. But it was brief that all the men felt such relief as it was then. The sky turned dark, the clouds did muster, the army did mark, that men did cluster. Together to make the feelings safe, for their own sake the coming wraith. I feel like I'm not absorbing much about this scroll because I'm so busy being like, oh yes, this rhymes, very exciting. But yeah. Upon the blood field the spirit did raise, not ready to yield to his army's praise. Okay, so it's one of those, like, never get too comfortable, those sorts of vibes. Okay. His power that day grew and grew. He won the battle with his body new. Well, that's convenient. Although I don't think that's really realistic, you know, like sustaining no injuries in a battle. But hey, new rhymes with grew, so I guess that's alright. For the rhyme, not the realism. He reigned with fear for 100 years. With every tear you heard his cheers. Oh, suspicious behavior. Time has long passed and the story epic. The memory must last of the evil Xeric. Aha. Yeah, that explains a bunch of things, including why Raids 1 is actually called the Chambers of Xeric, but I mainly knew about Zeah from before Raids 2 and etc. came out, so I've always known Chambers of Xeric as like Raids or Raids 1. Radar Census. By the command of His Royal Highness, King Radar III, here follows the complete census of the skilled peoples, animals, and estates of the Lords of the Settlement of Korend. Now let's see how in date all this information is. Lord Rasmus Arceuus, SP Lady Racina, Master Pecule. Wasn't Pecule in one of the other books? Yeah, that was the name of one of the elders, right? Or maybe not one of the elders, but what book was it? It was the same book that Elder Draben was mentioned. Okay, so Pecule, I don't think was one of the elders. It might have been as Lord Pecule? Yeah, if I'm remembering correctly, it went Lord Pecule and then Elders Draben and Feral. Okay, so this book was definitely written before that other book was written because MST stands for Master, which refers to, like, male children. Okay, so that gives, like, a rough dated estimate to it. Very nice. Can't remember what book it was, though. Ethram and Rada Extract? It's definitely one of these earlier ones. Master Grown. Master Grown. Wow. Imagine having that as your name. Like, that sounds miserable. Estate. 14 acres. Okay, so that's the unit of measurement we're using here. Nice. 17 dwellings, 1 municipal hall, and 1 temple. Interestingly enough, no library, even though this is Arceuus, and I'm literally standing in the Arceuus Library right now, i.e. one of the only features of Arceuus just at all. Animals. 24 cows. Wow. We don't see any animals around here, though, so they either all perished before now, very possible, and or they were handed over to Hesidius to help out with the famine. And 17 pigs. Same thing. Skilled inhabitants. 24 scribes. Okay, so these are, academics who, like, write stuff down. That makes sense, given Arceuus Library. 13 wood turners. Now, my first thought here is that it seems a bit obscure, but books are made of paper, and paper comes from wood, and wood comes from trees. So in that sense, technically wood turners are not that unviable, although that is a bit of a slightly obscure connection, especially given that they're teleport scrolls and temples and all that sort of, not temples, but like even this library, like it does not look like it's made of wood. The Arceuus Library and the other buildings, they all look like they're made of stone, and even the teleportation tablets, they're made of dense essence, which are not quite the same as the materials for other stuff, but it's still not wood. And 4 master builders. Very notably, no farmers in the skilled inhabitants. So I feel like that means either there are farmers and they're just completely unacknowledged as professionals, which is really unfair to them, because, farms are really, really important. Well, in this case, because of the animals and also just in general, farming and that sort of thing, or there just weren't any farmers to take care of the animals, which will probably explain why they're not around anymore. Lord Lorenz Lovicane. Alliteration. Nice. SP Lady Arameta and Master Svelgen. I swear Svelgen was also mentioned in the same book that Lord Pecule, Master Pecule here, but Lord Pecule in the book that Master Svelgen was mentioned, which makes things very interesting. So yeah, this is definitely like a few years before that other book came out. Estate. 18 acres, 6 of which are mine. Okay, so the person who wrote this book, or whatever species the writer is, because, come on, it's Lovicane, they're full of dwarves. Could very easily be a dwarf. Not only has 6 acres, but they are a citizen of Lovicane. Very interesting. Also, 6 acres is like literally a third of the estate land just dedicated to one being. Like, that's wild. 5 dwellings. Well, at least they didn't sacrifice any houses for it of the civilians. And 7 forges. They probably blew up a lot of smoke around there. Literally, because it's a furnace. And we know from I think it's the In Aid of the Marek quest, that furnaces do in fact blow up smoke because you have to, like, put I think you have to put coal back into the furnace, and literally the smoke from the furnace is how the vampires are lured to you and are like, hey, what you doing here? So I can verify that forges, or at least furnaces, do in fact blow up smoke. Animals, 7 cows and 2 pigs. Okay, so less than Arceuus, but still some sort of animal population. Very interesting. Skilled inhabitants. 1 farrier, no idea what that is, but sounds interesting. 21 master stonemasons, makes sense. And 13 master blacksmiths, also makes sense. Although, I will say, if there's 21 master stonemasons, assuming they're still around, which, I mean, I like to think that they'd be around, because the inhabitants of Lovercane are mostly dwarves, and, I mean, I don't know how long the lifespan of a dwarf actually is, but hopefully it's longer than humans, so hopefully at least some of them would be around. If there's that many stonemasons, why can none of them sell, like, gold leaves and limestone bricks and marble blocks and magic stones? Because, I mean, there's a stonemason nowadays in Varlamore, so clearly there's some sort of dwarves that sell them. And yes, they are, I'm pretty sure, Incando dwarves in Varlamore, but there's, like, normal dwarves in Keldagrim that are also stonemasons. I think it's only one of them, but yeah, like there's literally a dwarf that is a stonemason. So, I mean, you combine those two things, and then surely you could viably have a stonemason in Lovercane. I mean, sure, it'd be really tough for the Incando dwarves to get from Varlamore to Lovercane itself, especially because they'd have to go through that freaking tunnel just after the Gun of Death quest starting point, and the way there is blocked by NPCs. Like, sure, it'd be really hard for the Incando dwarves to get from Varlamore to Lovercane, and not just because it'd be a really long walk, they would also have to, like, get through that tunnel part just after the Gun of Death quest start point, which is blocked by NPCs, by the way. They're like, oh, you need to complete the Children of the Sun quest before you can go here. Which I did verify on Gridmaster, which was not a fun discovery. But, I mean, surely, like, Incando dwarves are really freaking short. So they could just, like, I don't know, crawl between the NPC's legs or something. Like, that's something that they could do. But then again, they're freaking Incando dwarves in Varlamore, so they're already approved to be in Varlamore, so there'd be no trouble going in and out of that cave tunnel thing just after the start of the Gun of Death quest place. Also, no master farmers on the list of skilled inhabitants, so yeah, same issue as Arceuus, I think, for that one. Lord Feral Piscarilius. Oh, interesting. Okay, so Feral was mentioned in the same book as Lord Pecule and all of them, but Feral, instead of being an elder in that book with, like, Elder Draben and Lord Pecule, is, well, Lord Feral over here. So yeah, the timelines and ages line up here. SP Lady Garanta. Estate. 3 acres. Okay, so definitely smaller than the other estates. Interesting. 21 dwellings. Ah, yes, most citizen housing. Yeah, that makes sense. That's pretty consistent with the current geography of Piscarilius, actually. And 1 inn. Animals. 7 pigs. Are we sure we're not talking about the oversized anglerfish that you can catch from the Piscarilius area? And skilled inhabitants. 38 master fishermen. I mean, fishermen. Okay, that makes sense because it's Piscarilius. But I swear there's not that many, like, fish shops. Although, yeah, you don't want to have too much competition for sales, so never mind, I guess. And 7 master shipwrights. Lord Draben Shazin. Hey, it's the other elder. The one with the terribly drab name, literally. SP Lady Chine, Master Seabury, Ms. City, Ms. Seattle. Wow, they really like naming their kids with names starting with, not with the letter C, but with the word C. How about that? Estate. 12 acres, 1 great hall, and 32 temporary dwellings. Animals. 13 cows and 12 pigs. Skilled inhabitants. 41 knights and 84 sergeant at arms. Now that's actually pretty cool because the sergeant monster creatures who look like Shazin soldiers, they're dressed in Shazin armor, their combat level is 84. So 84 sergeants of combat level 84. Like, that's really cool. Lord Horatio Hasidius. SP Lady Noretta. and Master Horatio. Okay, great. Very imaginative there. You just name your kid after yourself. Awesome. Very innovative, very exciting, very innovative. Maybe that's why it took this dude like 5 years to be like, hey, I should probably like do something about this famine and speak to the people. Maybe that's why. Because he's so unimaginative. And the first signs there were him being so unfreaking imaginative that he names his kid after himself with no variations. Not even like a, hey, I'm going to name my kid Horatio number 2. Like, yes, my pet names are very unimaginative. I've got people to name my beaver pet on my main loner and name my Scorpio pet Scorpio 2. But come on, it's better than just Horatio with no 2 afterwards or anything. Estate. 76 acres. 31 dwellings, 3 breweries, 1 grape house, shout out the vinery by the way, and 1 manor. Hey, shout out to the place where I burnt all those frickin' potatoes in episode 1 of my Zeah Loner, by the way. But yeah, the 76 acres and the 31 dwellings, there are a lot of citizens in Arceuus, and Arceuus has like a huge amount of land, so 76 acres being much larger than the rest, that makes sense. And the breweries, you know what, there are a few barrels in Arceuus where you can genuinely just like use an empty beer glass on it and get beer out of that beer barrel. Like, it's interactive scenery, so that is actually really consistent and pretty cool that they've picked it up here. Animals, 171 cows and 65 pigs. Wow. Okay, that's definitely the most of any of the areas of Great Corrend. Definitely not that many in the actual game itself, although there'd probably be like some sort of game rendering issue if that many animals was there. Skilled inhabitants, 16 master farmers. Do you know what? This is the only nation where they've actually acknowledged that, hey, master farmers are here, so you know what? Solid points there. And the census was, as proclaimed by the Census General Matthias Vorseth, by appointment to His Most Gracious Royal Highness, King Radar III. Radar's journey. The journey of Radar. And so the king did stand on high, above the heavens they heard him cry, to those with ears to take heed, to whom he wished to bequeath the most important part of wisdom, to help with the journey of his son. Well, that didn't rhyme, did it? The king did lament his son's course. He didn't know if there was recourse, should his son never return, and he could not yet ever learn of what had happened from this day, and how his son's future laid. Okay, so king doesn't know what's going on. Damn. The years went past, but not a word about his son had he heard. A stick did aid, his eyes did fade, but still no word to him was bade. Oh wow, so it's been like decades realistically, and still nothing. As every man must fall to time, this king no different did decline. Had the king have seen his son, he would have surely seen him shone. After many years of travel, and thinking his journey would unravel, he led his people through the gloom, a princely man to which he bloom. I do like the flowers outside, in just Arceuus, in Arceuus, all of that. I really do love the fruit orchid in Arceuus as well. That's very nice. Oh, and of course the plants in Tithe Farm. They're flowers as well, technically. Well, they're plants, but, I mean, plants bloom, right? It's not just flowers that bloom, so... Or maybe I'm just telling myself that to make myself feel better for being dumb. A towering kingdom he has today, even though the king would have no way to know the future of his son. At all the trials he had overcome, he would be happy at the end if he could have seen Great Corend. Ah, interesting. Okay, so the journey of Radar, does that refer to the journey of the sun? Like, who's the sun here? Is the sun Radar, or is the king Radar? Mysteries that I don't quite know the answer to, because Radar was definitely a king, that's for sure, because like King Radar had like a book over here, so I'm not really sure. Questions for later, that's for sure. Diary of Stecklen Richter, Volume 7. First, a grim morn. What? How does that make grammatical sense? Like, what's a grim? I mean, clearly a grim is being used as like a noun, so no idea what that means, but anyway. As the frosts landed early this year, a surprise as it has been late these past 3 years. I met with Magister Cetaius, who, in discourse, conveyed my request to Lord Arceuus to investigate the Dark Altar further. I retired to Madame Turner's on the Great Concourse for mutton pie. Okay, so it's what, lamb pie? Interesting. Okay, nice. Interesting that they used the term mutton pie instead of lamb pie, though. And drank to the health of the new king. I thought it was going to say, like, and drink to the death of the new king, and I would have been like, that's grim, with Messrs. Staley and Freyan, as in, like, Misters, but masculine edition? I planned the first visit to the Dark Altar, due to take place on the morrow, with the utmost care, due to the reputation it had received. See, this writer clearly knows whether the Dark Altar is light or dark. No ideology of darkness contemplation required for that one. Second, a fair day in regards to the content rather than the weather. The rain did beat down heavily and seemed to only increase as we approached the Dark Altar. Yo, I can run to the Dark Altar in like a few minutes. Like, what on earth is taking them so long? Actually, weather does make it hard, to be fair, so, never mind, because we're not subjected to bad weather in Runescape, so, you know what, never mind, fair enough. Unperturbed, we continued, and felt the better for our persistence the closer we got to the altar. Messrs. Staley and Freyan proceeded to survey the site as I studied the ancient text founded around the altar itself. I feel that even though the text is ancient, I will be able to make progress on understanding it. Third, this morning the rain had turned to snow. Oof, did the winter tot take over? And seemed to beat down more fiercely than I have known in these past 42 years. Add another zero and you get the meaning of life for that one. I have never known it to be so treacherous. Nevertheless, we arrived, although weather-beaten for our troubles, at the Dark Altar. And Messrs. Staley and Freyan continued the survey. I turned my attention to the ancient text, carefully ensuring I was making notes accurately. Some of the forms of the text suggest ideas and thoughts to me, which make me believe I shall be able to read this text before long. Fourth, Travelling Staley. I feel like that's like a pun of some sort, or whatever, like surviving is like an exciting thing for. Anyway, was taken with a fever the last night. Mr. Freyan and I continued to the Dark Altar. The weather was no better than the previous day, but mercifully it was no worse. Without Mr. Staley to help Mr. Freyan do the survey, we both concentrated on ancient text. I found Mr. Freyan's lack of imagination and understanding of the ancient language intolerable. What are we, an 1800s Jane Austen novel? How he ever came to work for Magister Cetaius, I will never know. I will have to raise his suitability for this task when I next speak to him. Progress was slow, and I feel I am no further to understanding the ancient text than I was yesterday. Fifth, yet again, I must bear the company of Mr. Freyan, as Mr. Staley has worsened this night. Oh, awesome. Can't rely on NPCs for anything, can ya? I declare that the progress of this day did not surpass yester. Short form hand probably must be due to all that research that you're doing and haven't really written about anywhere. I will have to find other means of engagement for Mr. Freyan. I spent much of the day in conversation with Mr. Freyan about the meaning of one symbol in particular. Ah, group work. How fun. His lack of understanding of such matters still astounds me, and does naught to inspire me with regard to his ability. I mean, he didn't really ask Mr. Freyan directly, like, whether he's suitable for the job like he promised in the 4th entry, so, I mean, not great either way, honestly. Sixth, I met upon the mid-noon with Magister Cetaius, leaving Mr. Freyan at the Dark Altar. Don't think that was a good decision, with the purpose to find alternative engagement for Mr. Freyan. Okay, so Richter, the writer of this book, did not directly ask Mr. Freyan whether he was suitable for the position, but instead went to someone else to, like, reassign them to a different job. That sounds a bit dodgy. Like, at least bloody ask Mr. Freyan what's going on. Like, maybe he's being possessed by the Dark Altar or something. I don't know. The audience did not go well. Yeah, predictable. As Magister Ceteius disagreed with my assessment, and I must tolerate Mr. Freyan further. I mean, at least freaking ask him what's going on, honestly. Upon returning to the Dark Altar in the mid-afternoon, I discovered Mr. Freyan studying the base. There was much temptation, some might call it provocation, to resolve the issue permanently. Oh, that sounds ominous. I did not. Not yet. 7th. The wind continues to blow such a force, tainted with biting snow, these past 7 days. I added my own commas there because I'm pretty sure the grammar there was incorrect. I have not known such a tumultuous condition in all my memory. Nevertheless, I was determined to continue my work at the Dark Altar. However, the king has shut the gates in order to have a day of thanks for our good health. The fool! I could not do anything, let alone give thanks, as my mind was consumed with my work. If others would, or should I say could, understand the importance of my work, they would let me pass and continue. Instead, I must console myself with quiet contemplation as I review my work. 8th. It is with relief that I awoke to the news that both Messrs. Freyan and Staley both have a fever. Relief? Wow. Wishing little ill upon his teammates. Awesome. Thus, my study of the Dark Altar can continue, undisturbed by the nonsensical murmurings of others. The progress was swift today, and by your judgment, mate, as the symbols unravelled themselves in my mind. When I present my findings to the Magister, he and his peers will see the true message that I bring them. They will see that I was always right, and am far superior to them in intellect. Well, that sounds vain, doesn't it? I was sore tempted to work through all the night, as I feel so close to an epiphany which will uncover the final parts of this endeavour. 9th. The weather only seems to worsen. That means I should be interrupted less. Okay, so the Messrs. Staley and Freyan are still ill. Okay. I continue to grasp the basics of the language I am seeing, but the message still eludes me. One word keeps appearing in all of the text I read. Sacrifice. I do not yet know under what terms the word should be used. I must study further to understand more. I feel like there should be a so after the comma there, but I'll let it go, I guess. I arrived back at my lodgings to the news that Mr. Staley's condition is improved. I hope he has more intellectual capacity than the Magister and Sir Freyan. Oh, awesome, blaming the Magister now as well. Lovely. What a fool I was to think that Mr. Staley would be any different to the Magister and Mr. Freyan. Right. The complete ignorance and uneducated manner was apparent as soon as I saw him again. His understanding of the language is beyond laughable, and his translation of the symbol as death rather than sacrifice is simply absurd. I mean, death is the only school in Wizard 101 that has a sacrifice spell to it. That's not like a sacrifice minion spell, which I think is from the Myth School, but I don't think even people who have played the Myth School, which I have not, would know the answer to that one, so I'm going to give myself a pass on not knowing that one. I do not doubt the Magister has no great understanding of the complication Mr. Staley will bring to my studies. Hang on. I do not doubt the Magister has no great understanding of the complication Mr. Staley will bring to my studies. I shall have to find another use for him. Definitely should be a so after the comma in that sentence. My work slows considerably, as is your ability to stick with good grammar, Richter. 11th. Today I may have stepped too far over the boundary of what is acceptable. As Mr. Staley and myself were at the Dark Altar, I realised that to unlock the rest of the language, a sacrifice was needed. It seemed obvious. As the weather worsened through the day, visibility dropped, which gave me the opportunity to test my theory. At last, I have found a purpose for Mr. Staley and Mr. Freyan. I do not regret my actions. there is always a cost to progress. So, first of all, probably should be a so after the comma there, yet again. And 2, there are no more entries to this book, which means that the rest of the language that was to be unlocked did not happen. Maybe Richter died as well, which means that maybe Mr. Staley was actually right. Soul Journey. If a culture does not respect its past, it deserves no future. In Kourend, every generation owes a debt of gratitude and honour to the previous generations, recognising their toil and blood that raised our kingdom from its humble origins to its present glories. Are they really present glories? Really? It has therefore been my privilege to study the Soul Altar, that mystical beacon that gathers the souls of the departed, guiding them into the river. I will say though, people can runecraft at the Soul Altar, so, the people who runecraft at the Soul Altar, they don't, instantly die upon runecrafting there, so, is it really that powerful? My study is no mere academic interest. I embark on it as a mark of respect and honour for the deceased generations whose souls now flow in the river. The river. As the mortals of Kourend reach their death, their souls abandon the flesh temples they inhabited, leaving the flesh to suffer corruption and decay. The soul, however, does not decay. Released from the fetters of its flesh temple and from the constraints of the material world, the soul is at last free. Mercifully, the soul is not left to wander aimlessly through the world. Instead, the Soul Altar calls it, reaching across the land to all the wandering souls of Kourend, drawing them to the river. The river leads the souls through unchartable realms, transcending the plane of the world. Yet they are not abandoned to the forces that might prey on them. The three-headed guardian is there as a protector. So the only three-headed creature I can think of is Cerberus, actually, in Tavali Dungeons, so maybe that's the right guardian? The only other, multi-headed creatures I can think of are KBD and then Hydra, who, by the way, is on the Slayer tier of the PVM wanted list on my Zeah Loner, and that I will therefore never kill. The three-headed guardian is there as a protector, keeping them safe as the river flows beyond all knowledge. Does it flow beyond all knowledge? I.e., beyond being able to be mapped? Because I feel like the entire River of Souls is on the old school RuneScape map, especially with sailing out, so that's kind of not correct. But maybe at the time this book was written it was. That would make sense, because this book would have come out in 2016, which is long before sailing did, so I guess fair enough. The Guardian's Keeper. Oh, great. Many years ago, before the Ascent of Arceuus, what, the quest or the, event in Kourend history, I was a young assistant to the elders. Oh, the ones with the drab names, am I right? A day came when there was terrible turmoil down the river. A human adventurer had breached the Guardian's cave. This broke the bonds of the Guardian, and she sought to escape from her solemn duty of protecting the souls. The elders acted fast to restore the Guardian to her post. There was, at that time, a herbalist. What, from Tavali? Or, that would make sense because, herb lore is a Tavali thing, the skill cap is there, the herb lore shop is there. Well, one of the herb lore shops, there's another on Entrana, which, by the way, how did the monks get, herb lore knowledge? That doesn't make any sense. Maybe it does make sense because Entrana has the hot air balloons, and the hot air balloons go to Tavali, so maybe it makes sense in that respect. There was, at the time, a herbalist, whose mind and body were known to be in a manipulable state due to his foolish experiments. That did sound suspicious, but you know what? Foolish experiments, is that karma? I don't know. It does make me think of the Grimtales quest, though. That's a sequel to the Witch's House quest, which is the quest where the little boy, as soon as you enter the members area of Tavali, is like, hey, I kicked my ball over this hedge fence. Can you please go get it? And it turns out that, the house he kicked it over into is, the house of a witch, and she's done experiments and all this sort of stuff, so pretty scary. Seizing him while he was helpless in his potion-induced trance, Oof. The elders cast spells of torment upon him. They went feral, literally. In order to relieve the torment, he agreed to become our Keymaster, bound to watch the Guardian's cave to ensure the Guardian does not break loose again. So my first thought about who the Keymaster is, well, I think there's this guy in Porthos Dungeon who you can talk to, and he's like, hey, can you get me these 3 books from the Porthos Dungeon, that room by the altar with the under druids in it? And you go around the room, and in those bookshelves is like the Sun Moon, the Moon book, and then the Stars book? Maybe that's the guy? Okay, I just checked, and that is definitely not the guy. So the actual Keymaster is that dude in Cerberus's chamber, the one in the blue robes, and who's got like a green rucksack on his back, hunched over, long white beard, and then whited out eyes with no pupils in it. That's the Keymaster. Oh, and he's got like keys of some sort on him as well. He has served well over the years. It was cruel of the elders to subject him to such a fate. Yeah, that was feral of them, wasn't it? Certainly not a drab outcome for the Keymaster, but the need was desperate. More like the need to not be drab anymore. The Soul Altar. The Soul Altar is therefore a blessing to the people of Kourend, bringing their souls to the safety of the river. Not sure how safe it is, but it's a location, I guess. We cannot know the fate of souls in distant lands beyond the reach of our Soul Altar, but the destiny provided by our Soul Altar is a sure comfort to us here. So hang on. They don't know the fate of souls in distant lands beyond the reach of our Soul Altar. Okay, I thought for some reason it said, hey, we don't know the fate of the souls that, like, are in the reach of the Soul Altar, but okay, never mind. Okay, so the idea that they have some idea of what has happened to the souls who have died on Kourend is of comfort to them, fair enough. We therefore owe a debt of gratitude to the Dark Altar. But it is the Dark Altar's power that creates and maintains Kourend's Soul Altar, drawing energy to this realm from the unknown plane where the true Soul Altar resides. And I'm pretty sure, as of right now, it's still unknown. I know they do have a Soul Altar in RuneScape 3, but as of right now, I don't think we have a true Soul Altar in old school RuneScape. Maybe that'll change. Without the Dark Altar's influence, there would be no Soul Altar here, and the souls of our forebears would be abandoned to an unknown fate. And uncertainty's scary, you know. It is not known why the Dark Altar has created our Soul Altar or Blood Altar. Hey, don't look at me for answers, I know even less than they do. Cynical minds have speculated that its motives may not be benevolent. I mean, come on, it's called the Dark Altar. Like, there's no way that there are, like, no harmful intentions from the Dark Altar. Also, I'm pretty sure that in that other book, the Richter's Diary one, yeah, I'm pretty sure that they all just died. So, that's, like, ultimate darkness, pretty much. What a nice ideology from me. I was trying to reference the Ideology of Darkness book, but I don't think it went very well. But I call shame on such suspicious murmurings. The Soul Altar enables our kingdom's departed souls to have the comforting certainty of the river. It is clearly a great blessing and a fitting reward for those who have served the kingdom in their mortal lives. The Ensouled. The soul does not always succeed in freeing itself from its flesh temple at the time of death. Many warriors have found, to their horror, that the soul of their foe remains trapped in the corpse. Ensouled heads are a sign of a soul in torment. Oh, awesome. So every time I get an ensouled head dropped from something, right, everybody sees it as, this is per XP. And it is, if you didn't have to talk to an NPC to learn how to, reanimate the ensouled heads. But, like, surely this is going to scar someone, right? Like, the idea that every time you see one of those, like, per XP mega drops on the floor, i.e. an ensouled head, it's just like, oh my god, I'm not at peace! From the creature that you just slayed for your slayer task for, like, the 200th time, because you're trying to get some other task that would actually benefit your account. It is therefore our duty to free such souls from their prison with all due speed. So why do they hoard that knowledge of how to free their souls from their prisons behind having to talk to a frickin' NPC to, like, use the arcade spellbook and then whatever dozen quests or something that are required to use the reanimate ensouled head spells within the arcade spellbook. So, like, being able to free souls from their own prisons is literally hoarded, the knowledge of it, by not only an NPC, but by getting a different set of NPCs' approval. Because not only do you need to have to talk to someone to access a spellbook that the, hey, let's make these souls be at peace finally spell is contained within, but in order to use the very spells within that spellbook, you have to talk to more NPCs and help them out. Doesn't make any sense. Like, if these arcades people actually cared about, hey, the honor of releasing these trapped souls to the soul altar, they would willingly pass their knowledge on to the people. Or at least have an easy way to do it, rather than, hey, you need to, like, do all these errands and stuff to get our approval, and then maybe we'll show you. Actually, now that I'm saying it, it does make sense that, like, they need that process, because I mean, clearly it's like a blessing, but it's like, well, you probably got to make sure you do it right, otherwise those ensouled heads will be even more trapped, and yeah. The magic of the Dark Altar enables the ensouled head to reform itself, a rudimentary body. This may be slain in order to grant liberty to the soul at last. Although I will say, I don't know if this feature is still in the game, but at least back in the day, if you reanimated the ensouled head quickly enough, like right where you killed the monster creature, you could still reactivate the ensouled head into, well, the rudimentary body that you could then slay and then get prayer XP from. I don't know if that feature is still in the game though, and that was probably most useful when you were, like, killing tons of monster creatures in the Catacombs of Kourend, which, while nowhere near the exact same location as the Dark Altar, it's decently close enough, I guess. The Soul Bearer. I have written of the time when a human adventurer breached the Guardian's cave. I think that was a Keymaster, right? Think so. While in there, the human attempted to steal an artifact. What is this, the Piscarelli's thieving activity? Or the Varlamore thieving activity? Or Pyramid Plunder with Zeah edition? This disruption to the river caused the loosening of the Guardian's bonds. Interesting. Do you know what? I do know that at Cerberus, like, I've never killed Cerberus before, I never got the Slayer level high enough, like, I hate training Slayer, and it is part of why I specifically chose to be a non-PCs account so that I would not have to train Slayer. Like, literally ever. Anyway, I do know, despite that never, like, trying to kill Cerberus or anything, I do know that Cerberus has 3 minions that spawn at some point, minions for lack of a better term, and the 3 minions that spawn are, like, all souls, as in, like, all ghostly figures and that sort of thing. So I'm wondering if that has to do with this, allowing her to attempt to escape from her duty. Guess not. Naturally, she slew the foolish adventurer who deserved no better. Oh, never mind, that's a different adventurer to the Keymaster, I guess. After the elders had restored balance to the river and appointed the Keymaster to watch over the Guardian in the future, they came across the artifact among the items and bones dropped by the adventurer. Even NPCs are looting, like people loot drops from PvP in the wilderness to make a bit of money, if they're a non-Iron Man, that is. The origin of the artifact is unclear, but it is believed to draw a soul from one place to another. Is that like a runecrafting talisman? Because, I mean, when you examine it, right, it kind of, like, tugs in the specific direction that the specific altar is in. And this is about the soul altar. That's technically a runecrafting altar. And, I mean, you don't need talisman to access it, but maybe they've done it somehow. The origin of the artifact is unclear, but it is believed to draw a soul from one place to another, enabling the soul to travel with the rivers across the dimensions. Do you know what? If this was Avengers, right, across the dimensions would probably mean, like, across alternate universes of other superheroes, or same superheroes but different things that happen to them. I mean, wasn't one of the Spider-Man movies called Across the Universe? No, that's Spider-Man into the Spider-Verse, not across the Spider-Verse. Although, now that I say it, that would kind of make sense as an alternate name. Thus, it was named the Soul Bearer. Okay, so not a rune crafting talisman then. I think the Soul Bearer is that, red monster creature head. It's like a red demon head with blue eyes and, white teeth, and it glows, and it, leads you to Cerberus, apparently. Not that I've ever actually completed the Soul's Journey mini-quest, which is actually what this book starts, but I think that's what the Soul Bearer is. Mercifully, the river still flows in its established path without further aid from the artifact. However, in the death of the adventurer, the artifact had become damaged, so they brought it back to Kourend in the hope that someone among the elders could repair it. Oh, that's not going to go well. Sadly, even the most learned elders could not repair the artifact, and eventually it was buried with all due ceremony and reverence, protected by spells to ensure no future explorer would find it by chance. Well, clearly someone found it because, someone's writing this book. If the artifact could ever be repaired, it would regain its powers to draw a soul from one place to another. That sounds like freeze and teleportation. That's a good time, I think. Indeed, I believe it could do this to an ensouled head. That doesn't sound good. I'm thinking of the experiments in Mauritania, exerting its power on the soul contained within the head. However, following the ascent of Arceuus, this ability would be of no practical benefit to us. And the mini-quest is called Bear Your Soul, which I accidentally started in episode 1 of my Zeah Loner, so nice. Transportation incantations. In the most common forms of magic, a sufficiently skilled caster need only provide runes to power the spell. I feel like in the past we needed Arceuus Favor, aka the power of NPCs giving you approval to do so as well, but actually, no. In the past, we didn't need it, because in the past it used to be, read this book, Transportation Incantations, and you unlock the spell. Well, as long as you got 69 magic first. And it was great because you didn't even need to be on the Arceuus spellbook to use the spell, which was fantastic because it was the only spell that you didn't have to be on the Arceuus spellbook to use. And back then, and still now, I can't access the Arceuus spellbook because the only way to access it is by talking to the frickin' NPC to use the spellbook. Without the NPC there, we wouldn't know how to use this frickin' spellbook. But nowadays, oh no, we have to get the approval of a bunch of NPCs by completing the A Kingdom Divided quest. It just seems a bit contradictory, which is not awesome. Anyway, certain spells may require the presence of a particular artifact, but nevertheless, the process is fully understood. Even the most junior magicians can identify the origin and flow patterns of the power. However, the ancient mage told us of spells in his native land that require the caster to utter magic words. Of particular interest is the incantation used in those lands to transport crafters to the hidden rune essence mine. Oh, this is exciting. It's the rune essence mine that the Duke of Lumbridge was like, hey, I've got a talisman for this thing. What's this about? And then you take it over to Sarador and Wizard's Tower, and he's like, yeah, this was just the power to magic through this, rune essence mine that I happen to know the teleport spell to, and so do a few other people, including a gnome and a couple of other wizards and all that good stuff. So, pretty crazy. If we could identify that incantation, we might thus gain access to their mind, allowing us to study the differences between their essence and ours. Regrettably, the ancient mage was unable or unwilling to divulge the exact words. See, this is where NPCs have a really big impact because they provide so much knowledge where clearly without the NPCs or without the NPCs being willing to divulge information, they can't really do anything. The people trying to gain the knowledge, they can't just magically access the mind. And this is where for me, as no NPC accounts, there's things that I deliberately deliberately will not unlock because, well, the NPCs aren't there to provide the knowledge. So things like herb lore, construction, so forth, all those things like completely just disappear. In time, we may be able to learn this incantation on our own, but the study of teleportation magics has always been very limited throughout Koren's history, likely due to the short supply of lore runes. Ah, now that's a relatable problem for me. Lore runes are very tough to get, although I will say you can actually get them on Zeah. You just have to kill undead druids or temple spiders or a few other things for them instead. So they do exist on Zeah, not super easy like from a store or anything. Our blood and soul altars are focal points where the energy comes into this dimension from the true blood and soul altars, wherever they may be. As I have written elsewhere, I believe the Dark Altar has made that energy available to us, because those runes are particularly useful in the reanimation of the dead. Oh, because that wouldn't go poorly, would it? It is, perhaps, unsettling to consider that the Dark Altar has not chosen to grant us access to runes that would be useful in transportation. Whatever agenda the Dark Altar may have, it seems it would prefer that the people of Koren not leave these lands. Well, that is sinister indeed. Transvergence theory. We have known for the past 150 years about the possibility of turning rune essence into runes, which can be used for magic. The ancient mage who visited us imparted his knowledge before he died. If we combine that with the stories that our explorers regularly tell about far-off lands which have an abundance of runes. Shout out magic rune shops, by the way. Although I will say that there is an abundance of runes on Zeah as well, in Arceuus, in the magic rune shop, and the general store next door, which for some reason is the place that contains soul runes, which makes no sense. We see that there are some startling differences between the creation of runes, both here and in other lands. We are told in far-off lands that access to rune essence is guarded by magicians who teleport individuals to hidden mines to collect the essence. However, we have pillars of essence reaching into the sky. You know what? Lunar Isle also has a pillar of essence reaching into the sky, but their one is for like pure essence, whereas the pillars of essence here just give, well, not just, but they give a different sort of essence. Not rune essence or pure essence, but dense essence, which do seem to have the same effect, at least at the blood altar and soul altar with the dark altar there in the background. In order to craft the essence into runes, we are told that in these far-off lands, special devices are needed to teleport individuals to another dimension where they can achieve this. Shout out runecrafting talismans, by the way. The only time they will ever be seen as not a horrible hassle. For us, we can use energy that emanates from the ground to change our essence. One of the most mysterious differences, I feel like that energy comes from the Dark Altar rather than the ground, but okay. One of the most mysterious differences is that none of the tales make mention of an altar, such as the Dark Altar, or any method of transforming essence into different stages. Yeah, so it either means that dense essence is equivalent to pure essence, or dark essence is equivalent to pure essence, but only because the dark altar is there influencing things. So, like, without the dark altar then maybe dense essence is the true equivalent to pure essence. If these tales are to be believed, then we must come to the conclusion that the process for us to craft essence into runes is different to how it is in other lands. The next question we must ask is how the process is different. In all the tales from the other lands, there is a constant theme: teleportation. Crafters must be teleported to a hidden mine to collect essence using a series of magic words. They must also use a device which combines with a magic altar to teleport to another dimension, shatter runecrafting talismans, and turn the essence into runes. Neither of these are the case here. As I mentioned earlier, there is also no mention of any structure which has the same purpose as our Dark Altar. One must conclude that in order for those in other lands to craft runes differently to us is because they don't have anything that acts as our Dark Altar. Very interesting. Right, so the non-Koren, non-Zeah places are like we need to go to another dimension, but Zeah is like, we don't need another dimension, our other dimension is here. Next we must look at why the Dark Altar does what it does. In order to craft runes, we must change the essence from what we mine into dark essence. The dark essence then can be used to harness the energy coming from the ground, which are focused through altars to become runes. The key question must now be, how does this happen? If we look at the Dark Altar as a whole, we can see that it is able to bring life out of death when reanimating corpses, corrupt individuals, and break minds. You know, or just listed so casually as if each of those things isn't just terribly devastating, all on its own, each of them. I think it is no coincidence that the Dark Altar allows blood and soul runes to be created only, as they are primarily needed to reanimate the dead. That makes sense because the spells for reanimating ensouled heads, they usually use blood and soul runes, but I don't know if it's still true now. But back in the day, I think nature runes were also used for doing this. Oh, imagine if there was like a nature altar on Zeah. My goodness, that'd be amazing. Wow. Like imagine if there was like a nature altar on Zeah that functions the same as blood altar and the soul altar. You don't need a talisman for it or anything. So you could just like create infinite nature runes. Wow, that'd be brilliant. And like the normal nature altar, you'd only need 44 rune crafting for it. That'd be stunning. But I feel like that would probably also devalue nature runes in general as a resource on the Grand Exchange and everything like that. So yeah, fair enough. You know, if you just don't want to have a nature altar on Zeah, that makes sense for balancing reasons. Because, like, the blood altar and the soul altar are fine being freestanding things, because, to me anyway, they require really high rune crafting levels. You've actually earned it, because the level requirements are so high, but yeah, like 44 rune crafting isn't that high, realistically. Like, that's pretty easy to get to, for most people anyway. Maybe not me, especially not on my main learner. I actually think that my Zeah learner has a better method of training rune crafting than my main learner, but, you know, still, it counts. But still, you know, don't want to devalue nature runes as a resource. If the Dark Altar can alter minds and alter life, then it is logical to suppose that it has the ability to change dimensions. Like, what, change people from one dimension to another? Or, like, the Dark Altar can change itself from one dimension to another? Very interesting. Because if it's changing the dimension of people, then maybe that's what happened to all the people that, that Richter person sacrificed to the Dark Altar instead of like death or something. And maybe that's why we haven't seen anything from Richter since then, because Richter went to some other dimension and hasn't made it back and is stuck with, you know, the incompetent fellow scientists and Magister or something in that other dimension. I believe the power of the Dark Altar allows the energy needed to change essence into runes to seep through to this dimension. Okay, so it seems like it's the Dark Altar that changes dimension, not the people, which does make more sense, but is way less exciting, and therefore I'm sad about it. By only being able to harness the essence changing power with Dark Essence, the Dark Altar has even more use and purpose. It is almost as if the Dark Altar has some sense of self-preservation and is looking for as many ways as possible to be integral to our community, and thus gain power within it. I guess that's why in NPC communities be valuable. And hey, the Dark Altar is really valuable, even for me as a Zeah Loner account, so fair enough. In conclusion, I believe the Dark Altar has the ability to merge power and dimensions, such as life and death, sanity and insanity, as well as converging the dimensions needed to craft runes, albeit with an agenda. Treachery of royalty. It is generally acknowledged that the death of King Bern III was not as straightforward as it was reported at the time. The young king was found brutally stabbed to death in his chamber by guards, who, after mobilizing the militia, conducted a thorough search of the royal compound where they found the assassin. Oh, I wonder who the assassin is. It is reported that the day before his trial, the assassin was killed by a guard. who, through grief, could contain his feelings no longer. Well, there goes knowing the identity of the assassin, I guess. I will hope to show that there were other factors in the murder of King Bern III. This does make me wonder whether this King Bern III is the same Bern who did the coronation speech, which I have already read. To start, we must look at Queen Byrene I. After the death of her husband, King Bern II, she took control of the kingdom until her son, King Bern III, came of age. So I guess this does make me wonder if maybe Bern's coronation speech was made by King Bern II? But then what happened to King Bern I? Or was that guy just called Bern and he never got to rule, and so he felt burned by not getting the chance to rule properly? I don't know. It was no secret that, at this time, she took Lord Piscarilius as her consort. What is this, Romeo and Juliet? And are we talking about Feral Piscarilius, the one from the census, and one of the elders from the other book, who fathered her daughter, Queen Byrene II? Oh, and a fair child as well. Scandalous. What am I on about? I'm like excited about NPC gossip. Like, what is this? At the time of the death of King Bern II, Lord Piscarilius also held the position of Lord of Intelligence. Well, that's minorly dangerous. Why are you picking someone from the fishing nation? You think that they would be able to fish for knowledge? Really? And as such, responsible for the spy network in Corrend. I mean, there is the whole, like, thieves section of Piscarilius, but come on now. Queen Byrene, you can do better than someone whose first name is literally feral. Like, that is the definition of uncivilized. This position he held until his death and was subsequently passed on to his son. It is also known that Queen Byrene I was loath to give up the throne to her son. I mean, it depends on why she's loath to give up the throne to her son. Is it because, like, he just doesn't want to rule as a personality thing? Are we talking Queen Byrene having the personality traits and all of that for it? Are we talking like she just wants to dominate the world and take over, like, in a Xeric type way? Like, what are we looking at here? As she said in her speech, "If 'twere not a requirement within the law of my departed husband, I would finish the work for this kingdom that I have started." Wait, so you're telling me that Queen Byrene I's husband was like, "Queen? Rule? Ha! What a nice joke that," and just handed it off to the son. Yeah, that is discrimination, isn't it? If we take into account Queen Byrene I's desire to remain on the throne and her relationship with Lord Piscarilius, who had the ability to arrange an assassination through the spy network, we see an intriguing plot developing. Finally, let us look at the death of the assassin who was caught for the murder of King Bern III. King Bern III was a mediocre king. I thought this was supposed to be unbiased, but I mean, an opinion's an opinion. He was not in power long enough to create any strong sense of adoration, and had not achieved anything of note during this short time. When combined with the lack of public display of the body of the assassin, as would have been normal in those times, I am left with the conclusion that the death of the assassin never took place. Tristessa's tragedy. The tragedy of Tristessa. Across the kingdom I did stare, as it burned into the air. To dream I did not even dare, that across the kingdom looking fair, a man of such a countenance did bear, my love, a feeling which was rare. With death the kingdom was in disaster, life was lost, and what else after? The end of things and never laughter, and yet the feeling for my master, a man of such a countenance did bear, my love, a feeling which was rare. Across the kingdom our love betrayed. Within our houses we had stayed, and yet with such a willing maid our plans to be together were laid. With a man of such countenance did bear, my love, a feeling which was rare. And it's pretty cool that all these sentences rhyme like a poem. The day drew near to launch our plan. Together we would be again. That doesn't rhyme. The time apart which caused this strain would soon be over as I deign. A man of such a countenance did bear, my love, a feeling which was rare. where once our love grew so strong, we would meet where we begun. But how could I have been so wrong? For who did I wait all day long? As a man of such a countenance did bear, my love no more did he share. With sorrow I did look for sign, not understanding what was mine, and our love which was entwined, the future did seem only a crime. As a man of such a countenance did bear, my love no more did he share. I climbed up to the highest tower, and below as I looked upon the flower, down below my heart did not cower, and I knew that this was the hour, as the man of such countenance did bear, my love no more, but any man share. Poor Tristessa. No, I can't say that. That's an NPC. I'm not going to feel sympathy for an NPC. Twill Accord. Know that before the Council of Elders, for the health of our soul and those of our ancestors and heirs, and the better ordering of our kingdom, and the advice of Ethrain Hesidius, Seabury Shazian. Hey, Seabury Shazian, I recognise that name. It's one of the 3 sea children from the Rada census. Nice. I wonder if the Council of Elders at this point still comprised of Draven and Beryl. Probably not, but could be. Rhett Piscarelius, Solange Lovacane, and Borath Arceuus, all royal lords of our kingdom. I feel like there's some sort of grammatical errors here, or at least the sentences are running way too long. Or should I say sentence, because all of that, one page, was a single sentence with a ton of commas in the middle, and I don't think the commas were even all in the correct places, or at least I probably should have added more commas, or just, I don't know. First, that of this day, the Council of Elders shall cease to exercise authority over any action, collection of revenues, mobilization of armies, distribution of revenues, seizure of goods or chattels belonging to any free man. What about the women and, everyone who's not a man of the kingdom, or any other thing as may be considered in the interest of the kingdom within the kingdom of Great Corrend in perpetuity. Second, that of this day, the royal lords of our kingdom, whom are part of the great houses of Hesidius, Lovacane, Shazian, Piscarelius, and Arceuus, take complete responsibility for the kingdom in perpetuity. Okay, so it looks like Corrend used to be ruled over by a council of elders, and then now it's been passed on to the royal lords of the kingdom, the Corrend kingdom. Okay. Third, that of this day, one member from the royal lords of our kingdom, whom are part of the great houses of Hesidius, Lovacane, Shazian, Piscarelius, and Arceuus, shall be chosen to be the Grand Lord of Corrend for a period of no more than 10 years. Well, that's a short lifetime for the Arceuus people. They're immortal, or beings, because they're not really human, and be able to exercise authority over any action, collection of revenues, mobilization of armies, distribution of revenues, seizure of goods or chattels belonging to any free man. What about the women and anyone who's not a man of the kingdom, or any other thing as may be considered in the interest of the kingdom within the kingdom of Great Corrend? Fourth, that of this day, the royal lord of our kingdom, whom is part of the great house of Hesidius, will have 10 years in the role of Grand Lord. Okay, so Hesidius is up first, and it doesn't sound like the same Hesidius Lord as the one that handled the famine in the Hesidius letter scroll, which I also have read. Upon the expiry of these 10 years, he will willingly pass the title of Grand Lord to the Royal Lord of our kingdom, whom is part of the great house of Lovacane, for a period of no more than 10 years. Who decided that Hesidius was going to go first? And who decided that Lovacane would get to go second? How was the order determined here? I mean, I thought that they would at least go maybe clockwise or something like that, based on geographical location relative to each other. So Hesidius is southeast, and then Shazian is next to it in a clockwise direction, and then Lovacane after that. So, I thought maybe it'd go Hesidius, Shazian, Lovacane, Arceuus, and then Piscarelius, or we could go anti-clockwise from Hesidius, right? So Hesidius, Piscarilius, Arceuus, Lovicain, and Shazian. Don't know why that didn't happen. Like, what house was Queen Byrene I from? That might have made a difference. Because, say, Queen Byrene I was from Hesidius, and Lord Farrell Piscarilius was from Piscarilius, right? Then maybe they could have gone anti-clockwise and been like, hey, Hesidius, and then, hey, Piscarilius, and then stuff like that. I mean, that might have been a bit too much of a scandal. Or if they'd gone clockwise, right, it would have been Hesidius and then all the way to Piscarilius lost, which would have made it far less likely for, like, a consort scandal like Queen Byrene I and Lord Farrell Piscarilius to just occur, because that way the houses would have been kept really separate then, or at least I think so. And so it shall continue for the Lord of our kingdom, whom is part of the great house of Shazian, then for the royal lord of our kingdom, whom is part of the great house of Piscarilius, and finally for the royal lord of our kingdom, whom is part of the great house of Arceuus. Okay, so it doesn't seem particularly logical. It feels like they've gone more diagonal with it if we were to go by geographicness. As in, like, Hesidius first, and then straight northwest to Lovicain, and then straight south for Shazian, and then straight northeast. Well, actually, like, northeast-east, or east-east-north to Piscarilius, and then up to Arceuus. So it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, to be honest. I guess the justification, though, for having Arceuus last is because the folks there live forever, whereas everybody else is mortal. So, realistically, if you want as many people from as many varieties of sections of Great Corrent rule while they would have been alive to see this royal accord of 12 book written, you're going to put Arceuus last, because everyone's going to live there forever, right? Whereas everybody else's mortal lives, they have limited lifespans. So maybe you put the farmers first, Hesidius, because, I mean, farm work is hard, they're not going to live as long. Maybe Lovicain then, they probably don't have that big of a lifespan, even accounting for the fact that they're dwarves, just because they're breathing all the fumes of using furnaces all the time, hammering stuff at anvils, lava, literal lava, being just a natural part of the environment. But then again, Shazian is all about soldiers. I mean, the whole thing about soldiers is they die young, so surely they'd be first. Piscarilius, you know what, fishing is actually, depending on the type of fishing that is done, fishing can be pretty, like, really dangerous. So, I mean, I understand why they would put them fourth, but still, definitely underestimated, that's for sure. Henceforth, this is known as the right of succession to the office of Grand Lord. Fifth, upon the expiry of the title of Grand Lord of the Royal Lord of our kingdom, whom is part of the great house of Arceuus, the title of Grand Lord is passed willingly, don't know how long that'll last, to the Royal Lord of our kingdom, whom is part of the great house of Hesidius, and henceforth continues as the fourth statement of this accord. Well, that sets a precedent for in perpetuity. Sixth, that if a suitable male of any of the royal lords of our kingdom, that is incorrect grammar. They should have removed the they, one of the few times where they need to remove a word and not add one or amend one, whom are part of the great houses of Hesidius, Lovicain, Shazian, Piscarilius, and Arceuus, cannot be found at the start of their period as Grand Lord, whether due to infirmity of mind or body, or of questionable morality, the right of succession to the office of the Grand Lord is annulled and passed to the next royal lords of our kingdom, whom are part of the great houses of Hesidius, Lovicain, Shazian, Piscarilius, and Arceuus in line. Okay, so if no one is suitable, it's passed on to the next house. Interesting. Right, so if one house wants a ton of power, they could just be like, hey, everybody from the house before me is unsuitable, and I'm better. Well, that'd cause some scandals, wouldn't it? We, the royal lords of our kingdom, whom are part of the great houses of Hesidius, Lovicain, Shazian, Piscarilius, and Arceuus, have sworn that all this shall be observed in good faith and without deceit. About that, given how many quests are in the current storyline, somehow I don't think that's gonna stick. Wintertot Parable. There was a man called Dentristus, a farmhand on his lord's land, probably part of Hesidius. His lord had a beautiful daughter, Arceuus. Was she in the census? Like radar census? I can't remember. With whom he was in love, but always he knew he would never win her hand. That winter was the great winter which drew down the winter tot from the north. It proceeded to devour the animals upon the farm. Oh, maybe that's why there's no more animals left in pretty much anywhere. Because there used to be a ton, as stated on the radar census, but there's not that many anymore. Although winter tot has never really spread that far, not even into Arceuus, so maybe at the time it like took over all of Zeah and the NPCs batted it back or something, and freezing the next year's crops. The Lord had no food, and Arceuus wept at the fear and distress caused to her people. This broke the heart of Dentristus, and so he approached the Lord. "My lord, I cannot bear to see your beautiful daughter cry so over the despair that this beast has caused." You haven't even met her yet, mate. Like, yes, you can admire someone's appearance, but like, you've got to actually like meet them and talk to them before you can be like, "I want to court someone. I vow that I will venture into the mountains and destroy the beast, so it shall trouble us no more." "Dentristus, you are a brave man," replied the Lord. "This is a dangerous undertaking, and if you succeed, I will grant you my daughter's hand in marriage. Well, at least ask her first. Like, what if she doesn't want to be married? As you will truly be the only man that can make her happy." Dressed in the Lord's best armor. Why is the Lord giving out his armor? That seems like a really dangerous maneuver, just for everyone involved. And maybe he has like multiple sets of armor, but I mean, this is his best armor. I mean, yes, you got to make sure that this dude will survive, because otherwise if you don't, then there might be an uprising, but still. And wielding his most dangerous weapon, Dentristus started upon his quest. Into the mountains Dentristus climbed, camping at night in caves to protect himself from the wind and snow in search of the winter tot. Well, I hope I didn't accidentally wander into the, like the mountain and caves around the, I don't know how to pronounce it, but it's like the Huicotal, near Varlamore? Yeah, I hope Dentristus didn't wander there, because that would have been in the severely wrong direction, completely south instead of north. From devastated village to devastated village he travelled, following the carnage of the winter tot. With hope in his heart and love strengthening his arm, that almost rhymed, Dentristus felt invincible in his armor, and powerful with his sword in his hand. He was ready when he met the winter tot. One wishes you could say he put up a fight, but Dentristus lay dead before he even saw the winter tot. Well, that went well, didn't it? The icy wind freezing him to the bone before he could lay a blow. Well, there goes that Lord's nice armor, although he probably deserved it, you know, trying to set up an arranged marriage without even consulting the daughter first. The fate of Dentristus is a notable reminder that some battles cannot be fought alone. Lovely message. Sad that it had to involve NPCs. Which, you know what? This is about the affairs of NPCs, all of these books have, but it's a good message, and I can't deny that. And that's all the books that I have access to in our Arceuus Library. So, hope you enjoyed this. Good night, and hope you sleep well.